Now we are going to try to take this and make it look more like this. And the only tool that we're going to be using to create our pattern within a pattern is going to be the knife tool. And you might get creative and add some other vectors on top of it, but the knife tool is pretty much all you're going to need. Now, if you would like there to be a variation of at least 2 different patterns in your tessellation, then all you're going to need is 2 of your original tessellations, and you can delete absolutely everything else. If you want to have a pattern that's going to have more than 2 variations and you want to cut into more different tessellations and change them up, then you absolutely can, but 2 is going to be the minimum, so that's what I'm going to demonstrate here. So I'm going to get rid of everything but 2 of my tessellations, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and make them larger so I can really see what I'm doing. Okay. Then you're going to select one at a time. We're going to use the knife tool, which is hiding underneath the eraser tool on the left-hand side. Once again, your knife has a jagged edge at the bottom, not to be confused with the slice tool or with the scissors tool. We really want the one that says knife. Now, if you remember from our positive space project, when we use the knife tool, we need to start on the outside of the vector that we're cutting, and we need to end on the outside of the vector that we're cutting. So for example, if I would like to cut this part so that it is separate from the rest of my tessellation, I'm going to start outside in the white and I'm going to end outside in the white. Okay? If you're trying to just cut a hole and use the knife as a hole punch, it's not going to work. You have to go through the edges of the vector on 2 sides. Now that I've cut this part, you can see that when I use my selection tool, I can select it as if it's a completely different vector from my original. And I can use that, to change the color of this portion of the vector. So what you guys are going to do is use the knife to cut in whatever you want to your tessellation shapes, but it does need to be representative of you in some way. Okay, as you can see in my example here, I tried to do bald eagles. They looked a little bit more like chickens because I was freehanding it, and then I did American flags. You do not need to do American flags or any type of flag for that matter. You can change this to be absolutely whatever you want. So let's say, actually for this, let's change the background to be gray. And I'll change the color of this one to be more red. Okay, now my favorite team is the Ohio State Buckeyes, which I've said to my students many times. So maybe in this one, I want to make a Buckeye, which is a nut. So I'm gonna cut out a circle here. Notice I'm starting in the white and then I'm ending in the white. It's gonna be the inside of my nut. And I can grab these and I can change their color. Change this one to brown. I want like a rich brown. There we go, there's my Buckeye nut. Now that I've cut these 2 areas, when I use my knife tool, I now have new lines here that form new edges. So now I can cut, let's say, a Buckeye leaf here. It's okay to go outside the lines. Okay, leaves have 5 points. So now see, I can select each of these and turn them green. If I want to select multiple ones at the same time to turn the same color, that's fine. I can just hold down Shift while I select all these different ones. If I want to match the screen, I can use the eyedropper tool on my toolbar and then just click on the green that I've already selected. As you guys can see, now I have a buckeye nut with the buckeye leaf right behind it. Maybe I want to add a stem to my leaf here. That's fine. I can just take my knife tool and come up. Oops. Now see, I tried to cut the gray, but it wasn't selected, so it didn't cut. The knife tool will only cut what is selected. I can take this vector and fill it with the same green. Okay, so see, I have now an image inside my shape that is representative of me. So then maybe in this one, now I'm going to do something a little bit different than the first one. So I think I will cut this, or try to be, oh, that's terrible. Undo. Let's try this again. I want my lines to be as straight as I can get them. There we go. I'm trying to get a block O. It's going to be a little bit tricky. So you can see I got a little creative with where I place those lines. Let's see, this one didn't work quite as well, but let's see if it works. Change that to gray. Here we go. Maybe I need these to be a different gray than my other thing, so I'm gonna go ahead and select them both. And we'll make this like a dark gray so that it really stands out and looks very different from that gray. Okay, now maybe on this side, let's say, you know, I want to add something on top and I don't necessarily want to cut it out. That's fine. You don't have to cut everything as long as you're using the knife tool at least once on each of your tessellations. That's really all that matters here. So maybe on this one, I want to take my text box. We haven't learned the text box yet, so this is completely optional. But I can do some things to make this a little bit more creative. Why can't I see it? Okay, maybe I don't use a text box then. Yikes. Maybe I want to just like draw on here to add like maybe a football in the middle. So that's why I love Ohio State. It's for the football. It's a terrible football, but. And then I can even cut my football so that I have the football lines. Probably way too many lines, but also okay, because it's my art piece. And I get to make it look however I want. Yeah, that's definitely too many. That looks weird. There we go. Definitely looking much better. And I can draw like my little stitching on the sides here. I'm just gonna do a little curvy thing. Does it look super legit? Nah. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, so we can see I have like my football, my block O, my buckeye leaf. Now I'm gonna select everything, okay? Now, right now, each of these is a bunch of different vectors that can be separated. That's not necessarily ideal. So what I want you to do next is to select all the vectors that make up the each tessellation. So you can do that by clicking and dragging around, and just be careful that you don't accidentally get the other tessellation next to it. But you want to be able to move that tessellation completely freely from the other one. Okay, so once, I shouldn't have moved it. Once I have everything selected, I'm going to right click, and now is where I want to press group, because when I want to select one of these vectors that make up this tessellation shape, I want to select all of the vectors that make up that tessellation shape so that I don't have to worry about them getting separated. So I'm going to press group. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to have to hold down shift and click on the parts that weren't selected. Right click, group. Oh, as you guys can see, I didn't get everything there, so I'm going to ungroup it, hold down shift, click on the missing piece, and then group it. Once everything moves all as once, you know that you have grouped everything correctly. Then you're going to try to use your arrows to place everything so that it is tight without any white gaps in between. And now that we have two grouped objects, we can resize them. And then we can start copying and pasting so that they repeat all the way across the board. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Get them perfectly lined up. I'm going to paste again. Line it up. And now that I have a perfect row, I can just copy the whole thing, select the whole thing, copy the whole thing, and then paste it. And then remember, we want to alternate the pattern. See, now I need to move this one over, but since I've grouped everything, when I just click on one part of it, I'm clicking on the whole thing. So I recommend once you get 2 rows done, select the entire 2 rows, copy, and paste it. Make sure that you're lining everything up perfectly. Paste it again. I'm going to use my arrows to move things around. You're always going to be a little bit more accurate when you are moving things with your arrows than when you're moving things with your mouse. And it looks like I need one more at the bottom. Oh, I need actually a little bit more than one more because I have the tiniest little white marks there at the bottom and I don't want any white. So let's see if I can select everything and make it all fit on my artboard without any white. Oh, that's okay. What I'm going to do in this situation, instead of just repeating it again, I can actually grab the whole thing and hold down shift to make it slightly bigger so that it all fits on my artboard without any issue. Once your artboard is covered and you have no white, except any white that's like intentional, like I do here in my football, you're gonna go up to File, Save As, save a copy of your AI, of your complex tessellation, press OK, and then I'm gonna go to Save As one more time. Oh. It's still saving in the background. Let's try this again. Save as one more time, and then I'm going to change this to be an Adobe PDF, and this is what I'm going to turn in online. Save PDF. And that's it. That's how you make your first complex tessellation.